Mark and Jennifer had $900,000 saved for retirement. Not rich, but enough. They retired at 58 and 56. Traveled for 2 years. Life was good. Then they made a decision. 5 years later, they had $2.1 million. But here's the twist. They wish they'd never done it. Before we tell you what happened, drop a comment and tell us, where are you watching from? We want to know where our community is from around the world. Now, let's get into this story. Mark was 58. Jennifer was 56. They'd both worked in corporate America for 35 years. Marketing executives. Nothing glamorous. But they'd saved consistently. $900,000 in retirement accounts. House paid off. 2 kids through college. The math worked. They could withdraw $36,000 a year, the 4% rule, and their savings would last forever. Combined with Social Security in a few years, they'd be comfortable. So they retired. And for 2 years, it was everything they'd dreamed. They took a month-long trip to Italy. Spent winter in Arizona. Visited their kids. Played golf. Read books. Jennifer told me, those first 2 years were the happiest of my life. But in 2018, something changed. They got bored. Here's what nobody tells you about early retirement. The first year is a vacation. The second year is freedom. But by the third year, some people start to feel lost. Mark missed the purpose. The deadlines. The feeling of building something. Jennifer missed the social interaction. Their friends were still working. Days felt long. Then one evening, Jennifer was scrolling on her phone and saw something. A small rental property. A duplex. $180,000. Each side rented for $1,200 a month. She showed Mark. "What if we got back into something," she said. "Not a job. Just a project." Mark looked at the numbers. $2,400 a month in rent. That's $28,800 a year. Nearly their entire withdrawal amount covered by rental income. "It's basically free money," Mark said. They bought the duplex. And then, they bought another one. And another. Within 3 years, Mark and Jennifer owned 6 rental properties. Their net worth grew from $900,000 to $2.1 million. On paper, they'd won. But something else happened that they didn't expect. The first tenant stopped paying rent in month 4. Eviction took 6 months and cost $8,000 in legal fees and lost rent. Property 2 had a pipe burst. $15,000 in water damage. Property 3's tenant called at 2 a.m. because the furnace died. It was winter. They had to fix it immediately. Another $4,000. Property 4 had a tenant who trashed the place when they left. $12,000 to make it rentable again. Mark became the property manager because hiring one would eat into profits. He spent 20 to 30 hours a week dealing with maintenance calls, showing units, screening tenants, chasing rent payments. Jennifer handled the finances. The bookkeeping. The taxes. The insurance. The never-ending paperwork. They weren't retired anymore. They'd created 6 jobs for themselves. But the money wasn't the worst part. Their daughter's graduation was in May 2021. She was getting her master's degree. The whole family was flying in. The night before their flight, a tenant's bathroom flooded the unit below. Ceilings collapsed. Emergency repairs needed immediately. Mark stayed behind to deal with it. He missed his daughter walking across the stage. Jennifer went alone. She told their daughter Mark had a work emergency. Their daughter said, "I thought you guys were retired." Jennifer didn't know how to answer. Mark and Jennifer had been married for 34 years. They'd never been the type to fight. But now they fought about spreadsheets. Repair costs. Whether to fix the fence or wait another year. Which property to sell first. Whether they should have done this at all. Small arguments became big ones. Jennifer told me, "We retired to spend time together. Instead, we became business partners who happened to share a bedroom." Financial experts warn that rental properties aren't passive income, they're a business. And like any business, they demand time, energy, and emotional bandwidth. Mark and Jennifer learned this the hard way. But here's the worst part. They couldn't get out. In 2022, interest rates shot up. Property values softened. If they sold, they'd face capital gains taxes that would wipe out a huge chunk of their gains. And if they sold all 6 properties at once, they'd flood the local market and drive down their own selling prices. They were stuck. Jennifer told me something I'll never forget. "We retired to have freedom. Then we traded that freedom for money we didn't even need. And now we're trapped." Mark is 66 now. Jennifer is 64. They've sold 2 of the 6 properties. It took careful timing, tax planning, and patience. But they're finally unwinding the empire they built. 4 properties to go. 1 every year for the next 4 years. By the time Mark is 70, they hope to finally be free again. They're slowly rebuilding the life they once had. Last month, they took their first real vacation in 5 years. Just the 2 of them. No phones. No tenant emergencies. Mark told me, "We sat on a beach in Mexico, and I realized I couldn't remember the last time I'd just sat without thinking about what needed fixing or who owed rent." They're relearning how to be a couple, not business partners. They're relearning how to be retired. Jennifer said, "We're getting back what we gave up. But it's taking years. And we can't get those years back." But they'll never forget the lesson. The years they spent managing properties instead of living. The graduation Mark missed. The peace they sacrificed for numbers on a balance sheet. Here's the lesson Mark and Jennifer learned the hard way. Retirement isn't about maximizing your net worth. It's about maximizing your life. When you retire early, you trade decades of work for freedom. That's the whole point. But it's easy to get pulled back in. A business opportunity. An investment. A project. And before you know it, you've built a prison out of assets. Freedom isn't just having enough money. It's having enough money, enough peace, and enough time for what actually matters. Mark and Jennifer had all 3 in 2018. They chose to give up peace and time for more money. And they spent years trying to buy back what they'd lost. Financial planners have a saying, "The goal isn't to die with the most money. It's to live with the most life." Mark and Jennifer are finally living that truth. The question isn't, "How much can I accumulate?" The question is, "How much is enough?" And then, "What will I do with my freedom?" Mark and Jennifer answered that question wrong the first time. They're getting a second chance. Most people don't. This story is a composite dramatization based on real FIRE community experiences. Created for educational purposes. This is Fortune's verdict. Now we want to hear from you. If you had $900,000 saved, would you retire and live simply, or keep building wealth? Drop your answer in the comments. Subscribe for a new story every week. Because the next one might save you from a mistake you didn't know you were about to make.